By 2026, the digital ecosystem has reached a point where AI integration, SaaS architectures, and cloud-native deployments are standard requirements for every new application. Because these layers are so tightly coupled, a simple update to a user interface often triggers a chain reaction through the APIs and into the database. This makes it difficult for a developer with a single, isolated skill to manage a complete feature build without constant handholding. This leaves you with a very real dilemma. Do you specialize deeply in either front-end or back-end and hope that specific skill stays relevant? Or do you make the massive educational investment required to master the complete application lifecycle? This diagram shows exactly how team structures have changed. On the left, the traditional siloed model keeps front-end, back-end, and databases completely separate. Looking at the siloed side, hiring multiple specialists meant higher payroll costs and slower execution because communication between these isolated layers constantly bottlenecked. On the right, the 2026 Agile model relies on a central developer bridging the UI, APIs, and databases together, keeping the build moving efficiently. Becoming that central problem solver requires a heavy upfront cognitive investment. You must learn multiple programming languages, master complex backend frameworks, and architect deep database structures. Over the next few minutes, we are going to look closely at whether that massive time commitment actually pays off in today's crowded job market. We need to calculate the true return on investment of full-stack development to see if this heavy workload buys you long-term market resilience. Let's look at our first evaluation criteria, the reality of market demand and current salary packages. This table breaks down the return on investment. The first input is mastering the complete stack, which means handling user interfaces, databases, and APIs yourself. In exchange for that input, the outcome is intense demand across industries like fintech, edtech, healthcare, and SaaS. Companies are paying premium salaries here because a single cross-functional developer eliminates the need for 3 separate specialists. It drastically speeds up execution and saves the company money overall, which they pass on to you in your compensation. But notice the trade-off column. You are now bearing the responsibility for cross-layer problem solving. When something breaks, you can't pass it to the backend team. You are the backend team. You are required to act as a T-shaped professional. You need broad knowledge across the entire system architecture, anchored by deep expertise in one specific area. The high pay you see attached to these roles is direct financial compensation for taking ownership of the system's entire logic and architecture. Our second evaluation criteria looks at geography and entrepreneurial potential. Going back to our matrix, the second input requires learning how to build, deploy, and maintain full-scale applications completely on your own, without relying on external teams. The outcomes for this input branch in 2 directions. You can secure remote work from global clients, or you can rapidly build and launch your own startup minimum viable products. Because you possess the comprehensive skill set to handle every layer, you bypass the need to hire an external team. This reduces your initial project costs down to practically zero. Here is the trade-off for that level of autonomy. Absolute control means you hold absolute responsibility for the application's security, its scalability, and its long-term maintenance. And while remote work gives you access to a global client base, it also means you are competing against a global talent pool. The standard for your portfolio quality goes way up. Full-stack development grants you incredible independence, but it forces you to become your own safety net. Now we have to address the threat of AI, automation, and low-code tools taking over coding jobs. On the final row of our table, the required input to survive this shift is actively integrating modern features like AI-driven dashboards, chatbots, and APIs into traditional frameworks. You do not need to become a deep learning data scientist. You simply need to understand how to connect and implement these AI services effectively within existing applications. If you do this, the outcome is strong immunity to low-code obsolescence. Businesses are always going to need skilled developers to handle deep system customization, complex edge cases, and scaling issues that drag-and-drop tools can't manage. The final trade-off is the strict mandate for relentless, continuous learning. You have to keep pace with rapidly evolving frameworks and new AI capabilities year after year. While this constant learning curve prevents your career from stagnating, it is a heavy burden if you are someone who prefers to master one single tool and stick with it for a decade. AI and automation will not replace developers entirely. They will, however, replace the developers who refuse to adapt and expand their toolsets. At its core, full-stack development is a careful balance of creative front-end design and highly logical back-end problem-solving. If you want repetitive, predictable tasks, this is the wrong field. To see if you align with this demanding path, let's look at this scenario match checklist. We've broken this down into 3 distinct career profiles. First is the entrepreneur. This profile fits if you want to build your own SaaS startups and need to rely on lean, cost-effective methods to test your ideas in the market quickly. Next is the remote optimizer. This is your path if you are targeting the global freelance market on platforms like Upwork and want to work without geographic limits. Finally, the stable earner. This fits if your goal is securing high-salary enterprise roles that operate on cross-functional, agile methodologies. If you hate thinking about back-end data flows, or if you refuse to constantly learn new frameworks, pushing yourself into this path will inevitably lead to burnout. But if you want to be an architectural problem solver instead of staying within a single development silo, full-stack development offers the highest return on your educational investment. Getting to that level of proficiency requires practical, hands-on experience with real projects. Theoretical coding tutorials alone won't cut it. This is exactly why the full-stack development program at Slidescope Institute was designed specifically for real-world, industry-oriented application. This curriculum map shows how the program connects the core technologies needed for 2026. You learn front-end tools like React, back-end logic with Python or Node.js, and database management through MySQL or MongoDB. You will apply syntax to live case studies and API deployment practice while working directly with mentors who are active in the IT industry. Everything is structured around building job-ready skills. That includes developing a strong professional portfolio and going through interview preparation so you are ready for placement or freelance launches. The modern market belongs to those who can build complete solutions from end to end. Taking a practical, integrated course is your first step toward mastering the tools of the 2026 digital economy.